Hello everyone, this video goes through the story of Marvel's Spider-Man. Peter Parker, a 23-year-old college graduate and a research assistant who gained superhuman abilities after being bitten by a radioactive spider, is in his 8th year of crime fighting under his superheroic alter ego of Spider-Man, who has become highly experienced at this point, but struggles to balance his superhero and personal lives. In his normal life, Peter works in the lab of Dr. Otto Octavius, who is a highly intelligent scientist, having co-founded a mega corporation, Oscorp, with his close friend Norman Osborn. He left the company after Norman committed several safety and ethical violations, later founding his own organization, Octavius Industries. In the lab, he and Peter are on the verge of perfecting advanced prosthetic limb technology, motivated by a neurological disorder Otto is developing. Peter also occasionally helps in a non-profit organization, Feast, where his Aunt May works as manager. The founder of Feast is Martin Lee, who turns out to be an important character later in the story. The scene opens with Peter Parker asleep on his bed, awoken by the buzzing of his cell phone. From Captain Yuri Watanabe, Peter knows that the police is trying to arrest Wilson Fisk, a notorious crime boss who controls most of the organized crime in New York City. After an intense battle in the Fisk Tower, Spider-Man finally beats Wilson Fisk and arrests him. Some days later, Yuri asks Spider-Man to investigate Silent Lung, tripped at acid auction of Wilson Fisk. Peter sneaks into the auction house, encountering Mary Jane Watson, an investigative journalist for the Daily Bugle and also a friend and love interest of Peter. She finds a secret file which is also being searched by a gang of masked criminals. Spider-Man helps to save Mary Jane from danger, but fails to retrieve the file. To identify the criminals, Peter brings the mask to Feast Shelter, talking with Martin Lee in order to get information. Lee reveals the mask could be connected to dangerous people and urges Peter to steer away from the investigation. Spider-Man continues his investigation in a shipyard owned by Wilson Fisk, where he meets Jefferson Davis, an officer of the New York Police Department. Once inside, they find a hidden passageway in the floor. Spider-Man and Jefferson enter, making their way to the vault, but the masked criminals beat them to it and clean out the room of weapons. Spider-Man tries to stop them, but one of the vans gets away. When a van collides with a truck, Spider-Man uses his webbing to get the truck out of the way of the train. Jefferson then shows up and takes out the final criminal, but is injured in the process. Some days later, Spider-Man is informed that some masked criminals have been spotted near a property owned by Wilson Fisk. When Spider-Man arrives, he finds that the masked criminals are eliminating Fisk's thugs and are taking over. When all the Fisk's men are saved, Spider-Man makes his way to the roof, where the helicopter evacuates the last of the criminals. He attempts to stop them with his weapon, but they shoot their way loose with a rocket, knocking a nearby crane to the bystanders far below. Spider-Man webs the crane before it reaches the ground, then chases the helicopter as it flies through the city. Spider-Man makes his way to it while dodging the rockets it fires. After throwing one of the men outside, the helicopter is damaged, and Spider-Man uses his webbing to catch it before it drops to the ground. After saving the city from helicopter crashing, Peter Parker hurries to meet up with Mary Jane at the ceremony for Jefferson Davis. Jefferson arrives with his wife and son, Miles Morales. As the culmination of Jefferson's speech, the masked criminals arrive, surrounding the pavilion and powering up their negative powers. All of them are wearing explosives strapped to their chests. Jefferson intercepts one of them right before his bomb goes off. As Miles regains consciousness, Peter remains knocked out nearby. He regains his feet to search for his parents. He finally finds his way to the now secluded podium where the masked criminals are. Failing to take one of them by surprise, he is nearly killed until Martin Lee calls them off. To this point, the masked criminals reveal themselves as inner demons, and Martin Lee is their leader, Mr. Negative. As they leave, Miles finds his father dead. Peter decides to return to the Feast Shelter to see if he can find any information on Martin Lee. In a secret room inside Lee's office, Peter finds the missing secret file which reveals a project, Devil's Breath, which points to Oscorp Industries. Mary Jane helps to find out that college professor Isaac Delaney may be related to Devil's Breath. Peter searches him in a university Halloween party, but he is already captured by demons. Lee managed to gain a name from Delaney as to whom he was working with at Oscorp, Morgan Michaels. With this information in hand, Lee leaves with his demons, leaving the negative-possessed Delaney to shoot himself in the head. Mary Jane lets Spider-Man know that she dug up information that Norman Osborn and Wilson Fisk were apparently in league with each other, as Norman wanted Fisk to build him a secret lab. Spider-Man decides he needs to infiltrate Oscorp to see if he can find any further information. Once in the office of Norman Osborn, Spider-Man accesses Norman's computer, where he learns about a project GR27, apparently a research project that has the potential to cure all known disease. However, the project seemed to be a failure, targeting the system's immune system. This failure is deemed the Devil's Breath and is highly contagious, and Morgan Michael is the only one with a sample. Spider-Man goes to the ballroom to make sure Morgan Michael is safe. When he arrives, Michael is kidnapped with his vial of Devil's Breath in an armored vehicle. Spider-Man chases down the vehicle while dodging rockets. The chase leads to Spider-Man underneath the vehicle as it is moving. But as he attempts to take Michael's briefcase, Martin Lee uses his power on him. Spider-Man gets free of it and has to forcibly steer the armored vehicle away from pedestrians using his weapon. The truck crashes into a building, and after emerging from the rubble, he finds the demons have vanished with the Devil's Breath. Silver Sable and her team arrive to take Michael to safety. Another day, Mary Jane enters Grand Central Station, roaming about, examining the various advertisements for Oscorp technology. Martin Lee also appears, and he and his demons take control of the station. Mary Jane is forced into the center with the others, but manage to call Spider-Man. After Spider-Man arrives, Mary Jane works with him to defuse the bomb. Then Spider-Man gives the all clear for the hostage to flee, and Mary Jane leads him to safety. Martin Lee ends up being in one of the subway cars below, and Spider-Man quickly boards in order to fight him. After successfully defeating Lee, Spider-Man stopped the runaway subway car to prevent it from collision, saving the city once again. Dr. Octavius has a breakthrough in utilizing neural cranial implant to attach and use his prosthetic arms, but Peter notices there are errors in the interface. He expresses his concern to Dr. Octavius, but Doctor becomes angry, prompting Peter to leave. Sable International truck was attacked and the Devil's Breath stolen. Yuri arrives with Spider-Man to reveal the situation is much worse, for Rikers Island has been attacked as well, as Spider-Man helps in minimizing the damage at Rikers, even stopping the prisoners from escaping in a helicopter. But the raft is having a problem of its own, and when they arrive, Electro appears and shoots the helicopter with a bolt of electricity. Spider-Man barely holds on. Electro then uses his power to open the cell blocks. Once the prisoners are largely subdued, Spider-Man begins his pursuit of Electro outside. Spider-Man chases Electro out on the roof, where he is then surrounded by Vulture, Rhino, Scorpion, and Mr. Negative. The fight is fierce, but they gain an upper hand. As Spider-Man crawls to the edge of the building, none other than Otto Octavius arrives, having taken on the mantle of Dr. Octopus. He warns Spider-Man not to interfere before throwing him over the edge. He then travels to the center of the city, where he unleashes Devil's Breath. Upon arriving at Times Square, where Dr. Octopus has unleashed the Devil's Breath, Spider-Man finds the dispersal trail leads up one of the buildings and into an access hatch, which is Dr. Octopus' lair. Where Spider-Man uncovers Otto's plan, all the villains are dispatched to different places in the city to make trouble to Norman Osborn. Otto has also left behind a case full of explosives that Spider-Man trips upon opening. He escapes via a vent, only to be captured by Vulture and hauled across the city to a waiting Electro. Hovering in the air, Spider-Man fights in a splendid battle in Electro Plant, and successfully captures both of them. Then he heads to the relief center where Rhino is guarding the supplies. Not only Rhino, Spider-Man also meets Scorpion there. Spider-Man defeats them and seals them both inside a storage container with his weapon. Mary Jane calls Spider-Man to let him know she suspects the information of Devil's Breath may be in Norman Osborn's penthouse. With it full of Sable International soldiers, she thinks she has a better chance of sneaking in and avoiding a firefight than Spider-Man. He agrees to wait outside in case she needs backup. Mary Jane sneaks into the penthouse and detects a hidden door in the wall leading to a secret lab, where Mary Jane deduces the location of Devil Breath lab using a large computerized map in the center of the room. She also accesses some records and discovers the truth of Mr. Negative's origin, that Norman and Otto are working on GR-27 some time ago, and Norman rushed ahead with human trials by giving a young Martin Lee the serum. Lee exhibits his trademark negative abilities, appearing to kill both his parents. Mary Jane downloads the information, but have alerted Silver Sable. Hiding from Sable, Mary Jane lets a spider crawl onto her body. Running away, she leaps off the edge to be caught by Spider-Man below. With the information Mary Jane gained about Norman Osborn's secret lab, Spider-Man has to find the Devil Breath anti-serum. Mr. Negative has captured Norman, and his demons patrol the ground and rooftops outside. Sable International troops also show up with their jetpacks. At the culmination of the fight, Silver Sable appears. Listening to Spider-Man's logic, she finally decides that they are better off working together rather than against each other, and agrees to a temporary truce until Norman is secure. After attempting to intervene, Spider-Man then faces off against Mr. Negative. Upon Lee's defeat, Dr. Octopus enters the room. He fights Spider-Man and knocks him out. He then takes anti-serum and Norman and heads out of the building. Silver Sable rushes in moments later to find Spider-Man on the floor. They take him to Feast, where Dr. Morgan Michael works to save his life. A spider secretly crawls down from Mary Jane's clothes, which bites Miles as he doesn't notice. Dr. Octopus climbs up outside of Oscorp, attempting to force the mayor into admitting his failings. When Norman refuses, Octopus drops him. Spider-Man manages to catch him in time, allowing him to flee before approaching Octopus on the roof. Then Spider-Man fights Octopus, during which the roof is exploded, causing the tower ripped free from the roof to send them both tumbling over at the edge, and the two fight on the side of the building. When Octopus stabs him with an arm, Spider-Man uses the advantage to rip the interface free again. Otto falls, and Spider-Man follows to retrieve the anti-serum, letting the authority take the lead. After defeating Dr. Octopus, Spider-Man enters Feast, where Aunt May is resting, still under the effect of Devil's Breath. He has with him the anti-serum, Dr. Morgan Michael telling him it will take a few hours to manufacture more of the anti-serum, and that the amount they currently have is only enough for a single dose. Peter ultimately chooses to allow the doctor to study it and mass produce a cure to save everyone else, and has a tearful farewell with Aunt May. 3 months later, Mary Jane meets up with Peter at Mick's restaurant, letting him know the news that she is now an associate editor at Daily Bugle. Peter is still out of job and is considering a career change. Mary Jane notices bags as Peter explains he has to crash with Miles until his new place is ready. Mary Jane offers her place to move into for the time being, and the two decide to rekindle their relationship. Helping Peter move into a new apartment, Miles shows him an unexpected secret that he also gains the superhuman ability,